what did they say you were doing?
They said I was practicing medicine without a license.
Did you agree?
Of course not. It's true, I didn't have a license. I don't want a license. One of their main complaints against me was that I'm qualified to have all different licenses, but I refused to take one because I realized that when I took a license, I would be under their control, and I did not want to be under their control. I don't have to have a license to do what I'm doing. And I've been doing this successfully for 32 years. You see, their definition of practicing medicine is diagnosing, prescribing. I was charged with what they call Business and Profession Code 2052, that's a felony, and Business and Profession Code 2053. And interesting enough, they don't mention practicing medicine in those two codes.
Do those codes apply to you as a state citizen?
They do not apply to me at all.
And you made that argument in your papers, didn't you?
Yes. The first time around, I need to tell you this, that my case was dismissed once when I was in about a year. It was dismissed. And then they turned around and refiled the very same charges. Well, I learned a lot during that time. The first time around, I didn't know anything about the difference between state citizen and United States citizen. I didn't know that. But by the time I got about halfway through the second time around, I had learned that.
Let me turn to Lee for just a second. I assume you mean all of us here. Your view, Edie, though, is a little bit different as I understand it. And that is that what we're talking about here is jurisdiction. What jurisdiction attaches? I think your understanding initially when you were first involved in your first case, your understanding of jurisdiction was quite a bit different than your second case, where you learned what jurisdiction was all about. You asked for an Article III judge. You asked for your common law rights to be applied. I've read your papers. You asked that the court apply common law to your case, and you asked the court to say, or to show, before they did anything else, why am I here, and how does jurisdiction attach to what I'm doing? There's no doubt they picked you up, there's no doubt they arrested you, and there's no doubt they thought they had jurisdiction. But you mentioned to them something that got them to stand up and take notice of you. What did you do?
Well, I told them that since I didn't, the first time around, I didn't know what I learned the second time around. So when I filed the papers before I went in court the very first time, I knew the Bible and I knew the Constitution. That's all I knew. But when I went to the law library and I would find contradictions to our own Constitution, then I said, I can't use that. And so then I would use common law terms. And I was naive. I thought there was still an Article III judge, and it's a good thing I didn't know the first time around, because all I knew was they had no jurisdiction over me because I had no license. I didn't want a license. I had no legal nexus with them whatsoever. And the very first time I ever went before a judge, I said, I have to obey God rather than man.
Now, did they try to give you a public defender?
Oh, they forced one for me.
How many times did they try?
Every time I went there. And this is very humorous. Like I said, I was so naive, all I knew was I would not take a lawyer of any kind. And you being a lawyer, you maybe be offended by this, but I said, I'm capable of defending myself. I'm the only one that knows my defense. No one knows that. I do not want a lawyer of any kind. Well, the very first time I was in court, I was sitting there about 5 minutes, and this man came in and he had a folder and he had my name on it. And so he bent over and he said, "Are you Edie Koenig?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Would you please come out in the hall and talk to me?" And I said, "Who are you?" He said, "I'm a lawyer." I said, "I don't want a lawyer." He said, "Do you have one?" I said, "No, and I don't want one." And so he left. about 5-10 minutes later, another one came, and they had my file. Again, they were playing musical chairs with my file, or musical files, whatever you want to call it. They passed this file from one to the other. I was so naive, I didn't even know what they called those men. I didn't know there was public defender, bailiff. I didn't know any of those terms.
Why was it that you didn't want a lawyer? What was your concern?
The first time around, this is my only reason for not having a lawyer. The first time around, one judge asked me, we realize you don't have any money. We want to help you. We want to give you a very experienced, wonderful lawyer. That you haven't been to law school, so you need the help because the prosecution has had much experience. They are trained to put you in prison.
Was it your understanding that they were trying to give you a benefit of some sort?
Oh, that's what we want to help you. It was always, we want to help you. And so this one judge said to me, is the reason that you don't want a lawyer is because you can't afford one? We know you can't afford one. I said, oh no, Your Honor. I wouldn't take a lawyer if you paid me to.
What did he say?
And I said something else first. I said, the reason I don't want a lawyer is Jesus had nothing good to say about lawyers. Now, by this time, the first time around, the first time I was in court, I went before 5 judges. They didn't know what to do with me. So they sent me to 5 different judges the very first day I was in court. It lasted till 5:30.
So they couldn't find an Article 3 judge? Was that the problem?
Well, the problem was they didn't know what to do with me because I had already said they have no jurisdiction over me. I have no complaint. There's been absolutely no complaint. By the way, they didn't even have an arrest warrant.
Did they try to arraign you?
Oh, yes.
And they couldn't arraign you without a lawyer?
That was the purpose. And so, but I didn't know that. You see, all I knew was I wasn't going to have a lawyer. And so the judge said, the 5th judge, the first day, he said, here's the complaint you've been asking for. He gave it to the bailiff. I was asking for that complaint. You see, I had said there was no complaint. Here's the complaint you've been asking for. And so then when I looked, he said, is that your correct birth date and your correct name, so on? And I looked down and I said, well, whatever this is, I have to talk it over with counsel. He said, I thought you didn't want a lawyer. And I said, I don't. I want counsel, and God is my counsel.
Wonderful. Well, take us up to the point where the court actually dismissed your case. As I understand, the court dismissed the case because eventually you demanded a jurisdictional hearing.
Right. All the way I did. All the way I demanded that.
And eventually they listened to you and they actually read something that you wrote.
Right.
And the judge agreed. Isn't that right?
That's right.
What did he say?
That was very humorous. I have to tell you what this judge said when I said, because Jesus had nothing good to say about lawyers. I can't leave this out. He looked just a straight face. And the reason I backed up is because they had a habit. See, after the first time, they didn't know what to do, how to deal with me. So every time I went in there, from then on, they would clear the court, even of the prisoners. They didn't even want the prisoners to hear what I had to say. So I was always the last one to be called up.
They were afraid that what you might have to say might spread to the other people.
Oh, they knew it would.
Oh.
And so I was always the last one. So this was no exception. I was the last one. All that was left in there were the bailiffs and the court reporter and the clerks and the judge and my friend that took me. And so when I said that, no, Your Honor, I wouldn't even take a lawyer if you paid me, because Jesus had nothing good to say about lawyers. With a straight face, he looked me right in the eye and he said, not too many people have anything good to say about lawyers. And everyone that was left in there just cracked up.
Let me turn to Lee for a second.
That was too good. I couldn't leave that out.
Sure. We need a law library, your own local law
No, you want
library.
to turn that off now?
And look up House Bill number
No, wait a minute. No, wait.
15090. See what it says. It was July 1969, and this was the appropriations for 1970. It was the 90